So my name is Tina Clarke, and I am a consultant in community resilience in transitioning from dependency on fossil fuels and imported food, imported goods to local community resilience. And I was very impressed with the talk. I've learned over my years as a trainer and educator, I've been very intrigued and enthusiastic about Paulo Freire's participatory learning that encourages people to reflect upon their actions, think and observe, analyze, and then take action. So there's a whole cycle, a process of thinking and observing and acting and reflecting that can be very empowering for people and increase their engagement in learning and can result in positive social relationships that support learning. So this, to me, felt like a very sophisticated version of engaging children in collaborative learning. And because we know that experiential learning and participatory learning is much more effective for any of us to retain what we've learned, that there's a very small percentage of what we remember just by hearing it in a lecture or reading it, maybe as small as 5 or 10% of what is presented to us do we actually learn. Whereas if we participate in the learning, if we experience it through our senses, as she was describing, we retain a much higher degree of what has happened. So when we think about the number of hours that children spend sitting at desks, in formal structures, and that maybe they're only getting 5, 10, 15% of what they're exposed to, it'd be better to have them spend half the time in school and spend the other half out experiencing and engaging with the world. So I think it's very exciting that she's bringing this model. I've seen it in operation in the US. We have a lot of Rudolf Steiner schools. There's a school near my home in Western Massachusetts called the Cooperative School. And it's a place where students get out in the community, do service projects, they learn to ride the bus, etc. Another thing that I was very impressed with is the support for each individual student to learn in ways that are interesting to them so that they can gain a sense of competence and self-confidence. I think the research is very clear that if children feel a lot of shame, they're unlikely to be learning a lot. If they're preoccupied with whether they're failing, if they are consumed with a feeling of superiority over other students or embarrassment at being a better student, all of these emotional dramas and traumas inside children can be quite devastating. I mean, in the US, we've had kids who commit suicide because of the opinions of their peers. So I think it's particularly important in the educational system that we're providing children with lots of options to find what they can do well and to engage in learning in ways that they feel comfortable so that they lose themselves in learning. They become absorbed in what's going on rather than in evaluating whether their peers will like them, whether they might be ridiculed, whether they will be ostracized, alienated, if they are too smart. I remember when I went to the university in my hometown in Manhattan, Kansas, I noticed that the women who were the poor students wore a lot of makeup and sexy outfits, and the women who were the excellent students wore the same thing, that there was such a fear on either end of being excluded and rejected that they had to make up for it by attending to their appearance. So I think this kind of educational system helps prevent that sort of student failure. The other thing that intrigued me is is that they are using a collective genius approach to learning and development, human development. And some of the research on collective genius suggests that we are much more effective and much more skillful and engaged when we work with a group. When you create a learning environment for children to cooperate and to experience each other's intelligence, you not only help them become better citizens and more effective in all kinds of group and family situations, but you also increase the intelligence of everyone. The research is quite powerful that we're smarter as a group than we are as individuals. And as society faces increasing challenges, the instabilities of economic change and dislocation, disruption, the instability of energy sources, and making a transition before we face a massive climate crisis, to prevent runaway climate change, it's critical that we all learn how to work together more effectively and build on each other's intelligence rather than competing. So I think it's critical that this kind of education is widespread and that adults also learn these techniques of teaching and learning and collaborating.